Good evening. Welcome to this month's Town Administrators Report. I'm David Watts Jr., and with me is our Town Administrator, Steve Maio. Steve, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, David.
We're a week and a half into it, but what the heck?
Just long enough to break all your resolutions, right? National Quit Day on the 14th or something?
That's assuming there were any resolutions.
Assuming there were any,
yes. Let's start off with an important announcement. Steve?
Well, as I told the town council Monday night of this week, that after 17 wonderful years, a complete labor of love, I have decided, after talking with my family, that I'm going to retire come July 3rd of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I've lucky enough to have three wonderful kids, three wonderful grandchildren, another one on the way. My parents are. I said Monday night, my parents are still with us. I think they didn't like how that came out. I don't know how else to put that, Mom and Dad, but we are still very active in each other's lives, so I do want to spend more time with my family.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to give the council a long period of time to do what they need to do.
And so you'll be stepping down effectively June 30th?
Actually, July 3rd, only because it's the end of a pay week.
Yeah.
So make it easier for personnel and everything. And
but it'll still effectively be at the end of the current fiscal year.
End of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Want to see it through.
One more annual town meeting.
One more that we know of, right? There could always be a special one. Yes. But who's counting?
Wow. Wow. A lot of years of service.
Yeah. Has been a real... like I said, it's been a real labor of love. I've enjoyed great support from you, my friend, over the years. I think we've been doing this for 17 years now.
This is season 17.
Season 17.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, town boards, from the Board of Selectmen, now the Town Council, to the Finance Committee, School Committee, others that I've worked with. Really such a talented team in Wakefield, people that are so dedicated. Mm-hmm. Employees that I would stack up against any community in the country, in the world for that matter, that really care deeply about how they can improve people's lives in Wakefield. And I don't say that, you know, to be you know, tongue in cheek or anything. They really do. Mm-hmm. And I will miss them. So, but I think it for me and my family, it's time. So
it's a lot to be proud of.
I think so. I think so. Together we've done some good things.
But in the meantime, we do have some things to look forward to.
We certainly do.
The first thing is the financial outlook for the next 6 months. How are things looking?
Well, we here, Wakefield is actually, we're doing, you know, quite well as forecasted. You know, the budgets on the expense side are coming in. We haven't had any, knock on wood, major issues. Right. That would require major attention. And on the revenue side, the revenue is coming in as anticipated, maybe a little bit above that over the last few years. So I'm very pleased about that. But I do see storm clouds on the horizon. I am concerned going forward about state aid coming to Wakefield. Now, state aid is a big part of our budget, not as big as some other communities are. But, you know, it's still, you know, 13, 14, 15% of our budget, which means, you know, when the state gets a cold, we won't get pneumonia. However, if they get a cold, you know, maybe we get a little bit of cold, maybe the flu. So I'm concerned. I'm watching the tea leaves, and I'm concerned about a couple of issues. You're not seeing the day-to-day revenue come in as well as we would like. I mean, it is probably meeting projections, but those projections have come down. And that's up for a lot of things.
And when you say day-to-day projections,
taxes, state taxes, state taxes mainly. Now, there are some good, you know, extra revenues on the horizon. One of which is the so-called millionaire's tax. That's bringing in more than the state had anticipated, which is great. However, what I'm concerned with is that, it was supposed to be a 50-50 split between transportation and education.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what we're seeing it on a local level, and it's not just Wakefield, it's all municipalities,
Right.
is that, this is certainly a philosophical discussion. I'm very much so that I wanted to come back to the cities and towns.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're seeing more of the education side money going to free community college and things like that, which is a wonderful, wonderful goal to have. I'm not saying that it's not, but that does take away
Right.
from what could come to cities and towns. The other thing that we're noticing or we're seeing is that there's some rumblings on is that within that 50-50 split, again, between transportation and education, there is some movement on Capitol Hill, at the State House, to kind of change that shift a little bit and put, 51, 52% into transportation, which means the MBTA, the subway systems, and things like that.
Right.
Again, a wonderful goal and very well needed. Okay? However, that tells me that, you can't, if you're going to have 52 over here, you're going to have 48 that will go back to education.
It has to come out of somewhere.
It's going to come out of somewhere. So
Yes.
I am a little bit wary about that. Also, the state is facing a very big bill between now and the end of this fiscal year regarding the federal migrant situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that also, money has to come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like some of the rainy day funds are being drained at the state level. So we're going to watch that very carefully. Next week or a couple of weeks from now, the Mass Municipal Association annual meeting will be held in Boston, and we should get what's called the governor's budget, or some people call it the House One budget. It's the first budget that goes out. We'll all be waiting very carefully and anxiously regarding what's going to happen with local aid in that area. So seeing some concerns there. Also, we're being hit with a lot of increases in costs next year. And it's not just the ones you might think of. You have, a lot of people say, well, you have too much personnel, employee contracts have gone up, and that's all and well true. But there are other items that are going to go up too. Insurance for our buildings and for our vehicles. Just see what's going around in the country. Insurance companies are increasing their rates. That's going to be an issue we're going to have to, deal with as a community. Health insurance. Health insurance is a huge issue hitting the country and everywhere else. Wakefield has been very fortunate. We're in the Group Insurance Commission, which is the kind of the state's plan.
Right.
But I'll tell you, the state's plan is in deficit for this year on its own.
Right.
They're looking at increases between, I've seen anywhere from 8.5% to 12.5% in the premiums. That means for Wakefield and for other communities that are in the state plan, $1 million increase next year. So these are items that we're wrangling with very, carefully. Kevin Gill, my chief financial officer, and I, we've been together for 17 years. We're sitting there going over, every line item in every budget, along with the town council, which is really scrutinizing them even more so, and they should. That's their job.
Right.
So we're preparing for, what I would say is people are sick of me saying this, I guess, a lean year, and we need to be careful. The other item that concerns me coming out of the state is that there really seems to be a top-down approach going on right now. And by I mean what that is that I don't think we're going to see, and I hope I'm wrong, the increases in unrestricted local aid and Chapter 70 for the schools that I would like that would go into the pool, and then we decide, how we spend it within those within the town budget. But the state seems to be not increasing those levels as much, but increasing money in certain grant programs, but it's very prescribed. You can use this for this issue. You can use this for that issue.
Right.
Which are really, and they're all great, great items to look at, great areas. However, I just think that the communities know best about how running the day-to-day items. And it's something that will be wrestled with for a while, frankly. So I'll have a much better feeling about this after I go through the state convention, and hopefully get the governor's first budget, which then will go up or down, depending on what the state legislature does. Interestingly enough is that, we start setting the budget or working on the budget. We have a tri-board meeting in October. And the only number that we really know going into the next fiscal year is the tax levy. Because we know what it is this year, all right? And we know that, if we were to say, okay, we're going to increase that by the 2.5%, which is the limit, I know what that number is. So I can say, here's one number I know, but I don't know what local receipts are going to be. Right. I don't know what new growth is going to be. Right. I don't know what state aid is going to be. So it is a little bit, it's a little bit interesting. And we may not even know that. We often don't know that when we've gone through town meeting. And that's why we have to clean that up in the fall, as we have.
This is true, and we've talked about it on the show many times over the years that the money it changes from month to month and year to year in ways that can't even be predicted.
One thing I'll be asking our state legislators for, and then usually they come before the chamber anyway, Chamber of Commerce, in the spring, is I will ask them if they are going to look at issuing a local aid resolution, which does give us, I would say, well, it's a floor, but at least I can deal with the floor of what local aid is going to be. I certainly exceed it all you want, but at least we'll know that number. So we'll ask them for that again, because over the last numbers of years, we haven't known what the final state budget is going to be often until we're into the next fiscal year. Right. And so, we've always been able to set the tax rate. We've always been able to get out the bills. We do work very well with the Department of Revenue. So I'm not concerned about that for this year or in the future years, but it would be nice to know. We've been pretty good.
Well, and on the other side of things, so far, the cold notwithstanding, we've had a moderate year when it comes to
that does help.
Snow so far.
We budget $850,000 a year for snow and ice removal. Now, interestingly enough, for you budget buffs, I guess, snow and ice removal is one of the few, or the only really, budget item that you can overspend in a fiscal year with the blessing of the state, and you put that, it's called a snow and ice overdraft, you put that onto next year's tax levy. With the caveat that if you ever were to reduce the snow and ice budget from fiscal year to fiscal year, then you are not given that courtesy. So you couldn't do that. We'd actually have to go to a reserve fund transfer or have a special town meeting to increase the budget. Or we stop plowing, right? I think some old finance committee members said, listen, God brought it, let God take it away, let it melt. But
not always the best way of doing it.
So when I started 17 years ago, I think the snow and ice budget was around $250,000. And seems that we had overdraft protection, overdraft, snow and ice overdrafts a lot in those days.
Year to year to year.
Year to year, every year we had it.
Right.
A, because it was too low, the number was too low to start, and B, because we just seem to have snowier winters.
We did.
I'm happy that they're not snowy. Believe me, stay in the ski country, and that's great. Not here. I always say I just want a dusting on Christmas Eve, and I'm done for the season.
Which we got.
Which we got.
Yeah.
Which we did get.
We did have a white Christmas in 2024, which was very nice.
Which was beautiful.
Yeah.
So now when we're taping the show, they're talking about maybe some more snow this weekend. This weekend coming up being Martin Luther King Day weekend. So I'm hoping we don't get any. But that budget seems pretty good right now. So we increase it every year, and now it's at $850. And maybe that's not enough. I don't know.
The other thing that's coming up that I think is important and worth talking about is that we're in town election time.
Yes.
And the town election is scheduled for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. at the Galvin Middle School during the day. Deadline for voter registration is Saturday, April 12th, 2025. Nomination papers are available at the town clerk's office to take out and get signatures for anyone who would like to stand for election. The deadline for that is March 4th. The deadline to withdraw is March 20th. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 areas in which candidates are being sought.
Yeah, there are, and then we have a number of elected positions too. As not only boards, but people that are, working for the town. I think the treasurer is up this year and things like that.
Town treasurer is
Yep.
up. Town council has 3 seats,
Three
three
seats,
three-year
yep.
terms. 2 town councilors are standing down. School committee has 3 3-year terms available. Library trustees has 3 3-year terms. Planning board has 1 5-year term. Board of Health 1 3-year term. Board of Assessors 1 3-year term. And the MGLD commissioners, there are 2 3-year terms there, and 1 constable 3-year term.
Yeah, and I think the last day, I think you mentioned March 4th was the last day to return the nomination papers.
Yep.
The last day to pull them, I believe, is January 20. I want to say 20, whatever that Friday is before that March 4th. So it might be the 29th or the 30th or something like that.
Something
Or
around
31st. Maybe it's the 31st, I would say.
there. Might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that
Yeah,
Friday
yeah.
of that weekend, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think that the timing. Well, first let's say that it is a. I've served in elected office as well, and I really think it really is very fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things you get involved in, whether it is a curriculum area you want to push in the schools,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a building of a new middle school, new high school, you get involved in that, whether it's on the town council, whether it's increasing human health services,
Mm-hmm.
police services, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
There's recreation things. There is a lot of joy and there's a lot of personal satisfaction in getting involved in that. It does take some time, but only the time that you put into it.
Right.
You're not required to do anything.
Right.
There's no command performance. So the electorate will decide that should you choose to run again, what the
Whether you
command
did a
performance
good
is.
job or not.
Or
Yep.
didn't. Yeah.
Yep.
So in that way, it's a great way to give back. So I hope that people will run for office. I will tell you that no matter what you're running for, certainly the door of Superintendent Lyons for school committee, I'll speak for Doug, would be open if you want to discuss things.
Mm-hmm.
My door is certainly open for discussions anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine McDonald at the library would certainly welcome any person seeking the role of trustee.
Right.
So we really appreciate, us that are employees, appreciate the time and commitment that the elected officials put in,
Right.
and value their input
Mm-hmm.
as we move forward. So I highly recommend it.
And hopefully, anyone watching the program will at least take a look at it, consider it, and maybe take out papers for the election.
And I think that what is important for people to realize this year,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of, our charter says the spring, the town election will be on the 4th Tuesday
Right.
of the month of April,
Right.
April 22nd. This particular year, April 22nd happens to fall on school vacation week. So, we talk about making sure you have a plan for when you go to vote.
Right.
So it may be that if you do plan a vacation and you're away someplace warm,
Right.
maybe there's still skiing in April. Probably up north there is in some instances.
Certainly in Maine.
In Maine, yeah. Make a plan to make sure you are there or get an absentee ballot to vote in the town election.
Or if early voting is
It
available
usually
at
isn't
town
on
clerk's
town. It
office.
usually isn't on town elections. That's
Might
why
be
I
a
say
good
that.
idea
But
this year.
and it may be a lot of that's to do with the state, what the state
Yeah, yeah.
allows too.
Yeah.
So make a plan, and I wonder, as the candidates, who do run, I think that, and I'm sure they are, considering how does that make campaigning a little different?
Right.
Maybe part of that is making sure that your supporters know it's school vacation. It'd be awful to be Saturday, going away and I forgot to vote. I forgot it was vacation. What do I do?
Right.
You're probably out of luck at that point. So they have to do a little prior planning there.
Yeah, actually, I highly recommend for any information, especially to new residents in Wakefield, go to the town clerk's website on the town website, which is wakefield.ma.us, and all the information is there that you need. And feel free to call Betsy and any of the others in the town clerk's office if you have any questions. But on the good side is being on vacation weekend, they don't have to close the school for a day.
You don't have to close the school for the day.
Yep.
There will be plenty of parking. So it's not even not closing the school for the day, because sometimes when we do that, there are some teachers that are, all of them are really, really very vigilant about their jobs. But there are some that want to come in to the classroom for whatever reason, and that probably won't happen on the vacation week. So there should be plenty of parking. No excuse not to zip in and zip out and vote.
And there will probably also be an election night program here with Bill and Ann and others to talk about the election and interview some of the candidates. But yes, please, especially for new residents, please think about running for one of the offices,
It is very rewarding, I will say that.
I've been on 2 boards, not elected, but I've been on 2 boards, Human Rights and currently the WCAT Working Group. And yeah, it is, it's nice to give back once in a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is what makes our community, part of what makes our community so special and so loved and so well respected in our area. And I know this because I talk to all the managers in our area, and Wakefield is held in very high regard. Not only because I think it's a wonderful, beautiful town, but I think that our elected and appointed boards really proceed very well, very judiciously.
Right.
They, it's not some of the horror stories you hear about from other communities, across the country. So
well, and you also see the products of that twice a year at town meeting, annual town meeting. You see what these boards have been doing in the articles that are presented to the voters, and that's something else that hopefully this year more people will attend is participate in town meeting and have your say, have your vote, and help to set the course of the town for the next year or maybe even beyond that.
Yeah. And I do think that this town meeting, again, will have a number of items that it will go in front of the electorate to talk about and to decide upon. Not only the budget, but probably a bylaw to talk about the parameters around accessible dwelling units. There may be a bylaw regarding a marijuana dispensary in town again. And there may be a bylaw regarding adopting some changes that the federal government is requiring when we look at our flood zones, which is all federally mandated. And based on what's happened in the country, there are some tweaks we may need to do there, but we've been ahead of the curve on that. And then there'll be, capital, what are we going to spend our capital on? And so it is going to be a lot of very important things that really will shape, the future of this town
Right.
For years to come. I don't think there will be, you never know, but I don't think there'll be any big bond borrowings. I think we've done that for a while. But, in the future, there'll be something, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Without a doubt. But, especially for the new residents, the great thing about a community like Wakefield is that unlike a city with a city council and a mayor, you have direct contributions to make to how the town goes forward.
You have a direct vote.
You have a direct vote in town meeting,
yeah.
but you have a lot more contact with the people who run the different departments in the town, or you have potential contact if you want that,
Right.
And to get things fixed.
Exactly.
So something definitely to think about. Looking ahead, over the next few shows, we will be talking about the upcoming town meeting and the cherry sheet and all of that, which we've done year after year now.
So we have to explain to our younger viewers out there,
Yes.
what does the cherry sheet mean?
Yes. And to new residents.
And to new residents,
And-
if they're older, they may remember the term. When things actually came out in paper, So the cherry sheet is what's referred to as the state monies that are coming to the cities and towns.
Yep.
And it used to come out in the mail, in snail mail, okay, by to every city and town, and it was on red paper.
Mm-hmm.
So hence the cherry sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now nobody gets it in the mail. It is on the state website, and when they release it, you can actually put in your town and see it populate with your numbers. Now, what is very interesting is that, and I know this because I try to jump on when it happens, is that when they first announce it, they're loading different sections, the Department of Revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you'll see this line of local aid, this line, but you don't get the full flavor, so you've got to refresh and maybe come back in a day or two. And I'm very anxious. I want to know what it is. So, but that's okay.
But we will
So
definitely.
that's when we hear people say the cherry sheet, that's what they mean.
Yep. And we will definitely have that
Yes.
information.
We will have it probably at our next meeting, at least the initial one.
Right. Right. Well, I think we've pretty much come to the end of this one. And, we thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next time.
We will. Thank you. And stay out of the cold, everybody.
Bye-bye.